politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It, As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto Willis. Welcome to Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willis, your host. Good morning, Houston. Good morning, Harris County. Good morning to the great state of Texas, and good morning to every nook and cranny where our 100,000 watt transmitter gets those signals into the radios of those people who are using FM radio in Northeast Texas, Southeast Texas, Northwest Louisiana, Southwest Louisiana, and yes, good morning or good afternoon or good evening or good mid-morning or whatever time it is to the rest of the world, because that great finger of the internet gets to every nook and cranny. And guess what? We do have listeners all over the world, and several times they honor us with their presence in our chat as we speak. Don't forget, folks, you can also reach us on our Facebook page at facebook.com/KPFT Houston, facebook.com/KPFT Houston. You can listen to us all over on air or on YouTube, politicsandright.com/TV. Anyway, folks, we are going to have a great show for you today as usual. But before we get started, we have to get to today it's to the genius in the house. Buenos dias at Caroline's studio. How you doing this morning, Jack?
Oh, I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right. Sorry for the fan noise. I couldn't reach it before the show started. So anyway, I came in early to wipe down the studio a bit, and cause we got visited by the big C. So we're going to deal with that. How are
Well, I
you
just
today?
hope I am doing fine. I hope as we wipe down at everything that you were able to fight off any potential of you getting the big C, because, we don't want to miss your voice for a few days or so, because what can I say? We want the family together all the time. But anyway, do you have any words of wisdom, or the wiping down took too much of your time?
Well, it took up some time, so it didn't go too well, but Democrats, we need to stand up to the Republicans on a more equitable tax code. Tax the wealthy tax dodgers. Nowadays, the American taxpayer is paying for corporate welfare as they all make record profits. That's crazy. Maybe it's uncool to be so greedy.
Yeah, it's uncool to be so greedy. See, Jack, it's interesting, right? Our economic system, they say, is based on greed. Remember that great movie called Wall Street, where the big capitalist, stock trader, stock broker, whatever he was, Gordon Gekko said he said greed. He said greed is what makes everything go around. I forgot the exact phrase that he used, but in a
Greed, for lack of a better word, is good.
exactly, greed is good. And the fact of the matter is, greed is not good. But you know what's even better, Jack? Most Americans don't display that unending necessity to be greedy. Their greed generally ends to where they feel they have enough. In other words, greed is that necessary thing to make sure you can get your family fed, to make sure you can get the things that you really need to survive. But there's this inordinate greed that we have in the select few, that it's never, ever, ever enough. And the truth of the matter is, if most Americans were greedy, what you would see, Jack, is you would not see those people at the bus stops every day trying to get to work, at the train stops trying to get their work, trying to get to work, given all the charitable organizations that we have, given not for a tax break, but just for the sake of giving. There are many folks who keep KPFT on air and that they're not doing it for the tax break. There are so many who are not even in the part of the tax code that affects their itemization of their donations, and they still give. Most Americans are good people. Most Americans are not greedy people. Most Americans just want to survive. And for those who like or sit back and think that most people are just looking for a handout, yeah, there's a lot of folks looking for a handout, and the biggest culprits are not the poor people getting food stamps, or not I think it's not called food stamps anymore. I don't think it's called whatever new name. But I mean, for people, those are the people. Many people think these are the greedy ones. Are there some people that abuse some of the giveaways? I shouldn't even say giveaways, but the what many of us called entitlements. Are those the greedy ones? No, 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 no. If you take a look at our budget, if you take a look at the subsidies we give, the amount of billions of dollars and that goes straight into corporate coffers that are not used to improve their sales, improve the working conditions. If they're not used for that. They're used just to enrich the few. From the COVID stimuli that many got with the PPP that never got paid back, to the little to those who just get the subsidies to pull oil out of the ground, something that they didn't put there but they profit by as they overcharge us for the people who look at what happened recently with Chiquita Banana, who in order to maintain profits condone murder. I mean, the people going wrong is not the average American citizen. The callers to this program, whether left or right, all have goodness in their hearts. I mean, sometimes it's not reflected that way. Sometimes the goodness is manifested as fear and wanting maintenance. But, folks, let's not allow them, and when I say them, I mean the minute few, that few group of the wealthy that has decided they want a, a policy that further enrich them over the democracy of the country. Don't let them be the ones who make these changes. So thank you for bringing that up, Jack. Before I get started, I also want to give commendations to Governor Westmore of Maryland. There are a lot of people whose personal economies, their life being, have been forever distorted, changed. Their inability to raise a family economically successful because they may have had a marijuana conviction, right? Think about this, people. Think about this. You get a misdemeanor charge because you were smoking marijuana, and that is on your record forever. You get a job, and they do a background check and show that you have a misdemeanor. You can't hold on to your job because the background check says you smoked a bat. So we call it in Panama sometimes bat, ganja, whatever you want to call it. And your life is forever changed. But interestingly, the amount, the amount of people smoking marijuana, it's a whole ton. A large percentage of the country smokes marijuana. They like the recreational nature of marijuana, and they smoke it. And most never get caught. Most never, it's not that they didn't get caught. Nobody was there to see them do it or to go ahead and say, because you're doing it, I'm going to take you in. But police, in keeping their quotas, they decide to arrest some, charge some. If you don't have a good lawyer, or if you don't have the finances for a good lawyer, you go ahead and you get a record. And that forever changes the possibility of how much you can earn going forward. And many politicians know it's wrong, but they continue to keep this fraudulent attack by the state onto folks, primarily are out of proportion, folks of color, and it gives a false impression of the criminality of one group versus another group, but it also maintains a particular group, and it maintains all those convicted, but particularly a particular group from being able to be economically successful. And every politician that knows they needed to correct this issue took a pass. And why did they take a pass? Because they fear that if one of those people who we take this pardon them, get rid of them, just maybe that one person will commit a crime and then it would be used against them. Because also it is so profitable for those people who are convicted that have to get services from the private sector, whether it be jails, whether it be private counseling, whether it be whatever the judge sentenced that person for remediation. Because again, remember, the private sector is always involved as well, get sucking on the government's you know what. Because unlike the belief that as Jack was mentioning, that all these tax benefits go to these poor people. No, it's not the case. It mostly goes to the private sector and the rich folks in the private sector, and all of that can be quantified. If anyone wants to quantify that, it can be quantified. So it turns out that Westmore, the governor of Maryland, decided to keep a promise, decided that I am not going to allow 175,000 people, more than 175,000 people in my state to have a criminal record because they decided to use a recreational drug. By contrast, I will ask folks to look up a few things. People drink alcohol in a recreational manner. They get drunk and they act out of order. People take marijuana and they get high and they become some of the most pleasant people you've ever known. But yet, marijuana is the drug that we give punitive punishment for, and alcohol, which have caused the destruction of many of families, from wife beatings, killings, uh, whether voluntary or involuntary, with cars, guns, etc. But somehow it's immoral to have been convicted or to use marijuana. But when it comes to alcohol, which kills a lot more, which damages a lot more organs than maybe what the inhalants of some tar and smoke from marijuana does to your lungs. So we have a distorted view of morality and a distorted view of what should be punished. And what Westmore did, Governor Westmore of Maryland did, by pardoning 175,000 people, more than 175,000 people in Maryland, is a good start. It's a politician working for the people. It's a politician who is going to increase his economy by making 175,000 plus more people more employable, the ability to make more money, and the ability to pay more taxes to then support the entire system. How can we not give this guy kudos for what he's done? And that's how I wanted to start the program, by saying good job. And I hope more politicians going forward would think about the people they serve and start thinking about how they can really make lives better instead of trying to be punitive by punitive with those who doesn't deserve said punishment. But anyhow, let's get started. Remember, this is a call-in show. Give us a call at 713-526-5738. Again, that number is 713-526-5738. Those of you who got the newsletter this morning, this subject was not on the newsletter because I just was going to talk about it in passing, but as usual, sometimes I put a bit more wordiology onto it because as I'm talking about it, the passion comes about how great a move something was, and that is what Westmore did. A great move for his population, for his citizens, for the citizens of Maryland. I congratulate the guy and hope others. Title of the show today is Time for Democrats to Stiffen Spine and Spine Taxes for the Rich. Tim Scott bullies the weak. I don't know if that headline is as uh, it's fine. Taxes for. I don't know if I like that headline after all. I did it late last night, so I don't know how much I like the headline. I don't even know if it's grammatically correct, even though this headline didn't need to be perfect. But anyhow, it's time for Democrats to support the people who put them in power, the working class. This week's Jonathan Karl was ill prepared for Senator Tim Scott bulldozing him to promote the GOP message. Very important. Anyhow, I want to start. And by the way, I have a 18-minute video on this thing with Tim Scott on the Tim Scott interview. If I can get through the first part at by 22, I will go ahead and play that 18-minute video because I think it's something you need to hear along with the commentary that came with it. So, but anyway, let's go ahead and start with this article about time to stiffen our spines. So it's time to stiffen our spines, according to Senator Elizabeth Warren, one of our great progressive senators in the state from the state of Massachusetts, but who really promotes great progressive values. As congressional Republicans prepare for Donald Trump's possible White House return by plotting to expand tax cuts for corporations and the wealthy that were the cornerstone of his first term in office, U.S. Senator Elizabeth Warren on Monday said Democrats must be ferocious opponents of another GOP tax scam. And if you recall, several years ago, we wrote a whole lot about the Republican tax scam back in the I think it was 2021. But anyhow, actually, it was in 2019. What am I talking about? 2018, 2017. It's time to stiffen our spine, said Warren in social media post. President Joe Biden is right. If the 2025 tax bill doesn't call on the wealthy and giant corporations to shoulder a bigger share of what it costs to run this country, Democrats should reject it outright. No more Trump tax breaks for billionaires. A Common Dreams reported earlier this month Republican lawmakers are ready and eager to ram through an expanded version of the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, falsely touted by Trump as a boon to working class families. The law was a massive windfall for corporations and the rich and added trillions of dollars to the national debt. The 2025 fight will create a huge opportunity to break with decades of tax cutting political orthodoxy and reshape the tax code to reflect our nation's values by raising taxes on the wealthy, Warren said during a Monday speech at the Washington Center for Equitable Growth and a think tank focused on economic issues. But let's be crystal clear. If Democrats take the coward's way out and sign our names to a half-baked deal that lets the wealthy off the hook, it will be a huge failure and one the American people cannot afford, added Warren, who earlier this year was a lead sponsor of the Ultra Millionaire Tax Act, a bill to strengthen anti-tax evasion rules. If you want to know why billionaires of all facets are moving towards funding Donald Trump with an attempt to buy the election, that's the answer. The answer is the the Ultra Millionaire Tax Act. They don't want that because in this act we are talking about unrealized gains from the stock market being taxed. Let me explain that because a lot of people they don't read these undercurrents that are occurring. Here's this, my brothers and sisters. You may own a house. You may own a car. Your house, your car. Your house, your car has value, but it is unrealized value. You could probably sell your house for $250,000 because this county says that's its appraised value. You could probably sell your car for $10,000 because the blue book says that is the sale value of your car. But your car probably costs whatever it costs, and that's what you're going to pay. So here's the kicker. Here is the kicker. All homeowners and renters indirectly, because of the rents they pay a property tax, a wealth tax on their home, their car, and many of their land, and many of their assets, which are unrealized gains. Okay, which has, I should say, unrealized gains. When they appraise your home every year, your tax bill goes based on the appraised value of your home. So if your asset appreciates, your tax bill for that home goes up. There are several ways to hold on to wealth. You can hold on to wealth with your home. You can hold on to wealth with a stock, right? That's all it is. It's a different form of wealth, or you can hold your wealth in the form of cash in the bank earning interest. But the one thing we know is homeowners are penalized. I shouldn't say penalized. They do the right thing. They pay a property tax on that home every single year. Stock owners don't want to pay a property tax on their wealth, which is stocks. All of us should pay on our homes, but they get to keep that stock without worrying about. That stock can go from $10 to $1,000. They don't pay any money because it's unrealized gains until they sell it. But it's even worse because after they sell it, they pay a lower percentage on that stock sale, on that appreciation on that stock, than you pay going to work every single day. When we tell you that the tax code was not written for you, it was written for the few who have inordinate wealth. It's not conjecture, it is fact. And that we have so many hard working Americans supporting those who will maintain that system and try to call somebody like Elizabeth Warren and those who are supporting the Ultra Millionaire Tax Act because of its unfair nature. It's not because they're bad people supporting these people. It's because most of the time they don't know. It's most of the times they believe the lies coming out of a think tank that tells them to vote against their own interests, and that somehow that millionaire needs you, the poor person, to pay more taxes to help them continue to grow their millions as your wages stagnate. Those are statements of fact, provable, verifiable, that you can go see yourself. Instead of us saying those damn progressives want to change things, try to think those progressives want what's right for us all, including the millionaires. So, folks, please check out the article. It's a longer article. You can go to politicsandright.com/newsletter and finish it. What I'm going to do is go to the phones now, and then let's go ahead and start with Tag. Come on in, Tag. How are you doing this morning?
Good, Egberto. How about you?
I am doing fine. Talk to me, sir.
Well, I just appreciate you mentioning, Westmore and the marijuana initiative that he has come up with, and other states have too, other governors. I look at it as big business versus the individual. It's so easy to put a few seeds in the ground and have a few plants for your own personal use, and there's no big business involved. There's no government intervention or taxation on it or control. It's just something you do with your garden. And with alcohol, I mean, it's just this huge business with taxes involved and a lot of really rich people controlling the alcohol trade. I mean, so I see it, really the individuals versus big business and big government. So that's kind of what I wanted to say. I'm glad that our society is getting away from that corporate domination that we have so often. So that
absolutely
was
so.
So
I agree, sir.
I
Anyway,
appreciate you talking about that this morning.
well, yeah, last night as I was writing, it was late, and I'm sleepy, so I read about it, and then this morning as I'm perusing some other articles, I said, this is something that people need to know about, and also I think people need to be aware that why somebody drinks alcohol who can actually get drunk. They don't have any moral penalties for drinking, getting drunk, or whatever, but somehow it's immoral to smoke a bat, immoral to get high and feel good from smoking marijuana, while the drunk, they don't take away the morality out of it. Nah, I think we have to get honest as a society, even with drugs, etc. Anyway, anything else, Tag?
In Michigan, marijuana is pretty much legal for recreational use. You can grow a few of your own plants. The whole environment here has changed significantly over the years because you don't have all this police state type of stuff, and the imprisonment factor has changed dramatically. The whole thing has changed, and I think our society of Michigan's a lot better for going in that direction. So I think that other states need to do the same thing, especially Texas. So,
Tell me about it. Tell me about it. Wait, but you're in Michigan, right? You're not in Texas.
correct.
Had you lived in Texas before?
Yeah, we were down there for like almost 15 years,
Got you.
and we came from Michigan. Went down because my wife had a job down there, and while we were down there, then the laws in Michigan changed on marijuana, and we come back here, and it's a whole different environment. You just don't have to worry about getting pulled over, and if you've got a seed or stem on the floor of your car, nobody's going to bother you about that anymore. If you got roaches in the ashtray, it's not going to be a problem. And
Right.
you just don't have the paranoia up here like you do in places where there's such a hard line against marijuana. So and all the scared straight stuff. It was just a big lie, to help big business. It's all
Yeah.
about big business and taxes and stuff and in the jail. So I think people who smoke pot have a lot better control of themselves than people who are getting drunk, and there's a lot more violence with people who are drunk a lot, So anyway, I just think it's a lot better world if once that change is made. So
Thank
that's
you very
about
much.
it. Thanks for taking my call. Have a good day.
Thank you, Tag. All right, let's go to Brother Harry. Come on in there, Harry.
Amen to intelligent caller Tag. He is 100% right about all of that. And when you were talking about this marijuana stuff, I was just thinking about conversations that my brother Alan and I have. I tried to get him to call you, but he always keeps making excuses. I'm not doing that. So I'll speak for him, and because he's listening in another room. But anyway, you remember Woodstock and the original Woodstock?
Of course. Yeah.
You put it absolutely correct earlier when you said a lot of people who smoke marijuana are some of the most peaceful people. That was a peaceful gathering in '69. In '94, I heard about it from Alan, my brother. I hadn't known about it. But and then we started talking about it back then. Well, the second Woodstock was very destructive with people, as Tag was mentioning there, getting drunk with alcohol because it's more destructive. And Tag is absolutely right. It's about big business. It's about taxes, and they can't tax people who put seeds in the ground, maybe in their backyard, and so that's why there's a war on marijuana in a lot of these states. You know, like Tag State, Michigan, California, where I'm from, it's legalized. They use it for recreational purposes. They use it for medical purposes. But it's it's peaceful, and it's just big business can't tax it, and that's why they want to lock people up. People's prison stocks go up when they lock people up for marijuana. Now I'll get on to the tax code. Now, as far as the taxes are concerned, they don't want people like Warren Buffett out there talking about, I want a wealth tax. They believe in borrow, buy, die. And as you mentioned, Eberto, they pay a lower tax code as opposed to the working person when they sell that stock, because that's what they want. Borrow, buy, die, as I mentioned on this program before, to pass it down to future generations. That's what they believe in, and so they just want to keep their taxes low, or not pay very little, or not, if it's in some categories not pay any tax at all. But that's what it's about with them. And as you mentioned, as Jack was talking, you guys were talking about, greed is good and greed works. Greed is right. As I mentioned on the show a few weeks ago, they got that from Ivan Boesky, who gave a talk at Cal, and when Oliver Stone made that movie, he put that in there for Gordon Gekko. And then, as you know from the movie later on, when Charlie Sheen, Bud Fox's character, Charlie Sheen, who played Bud Fox, was trying to save his father's airline and found out that they were going to sell off Blue Star and carve it into little pieces, and then the street was going to own Blue Star, and all Martin Sheen's friends who worked at Blue Star were going to have nowhere to go. They were going to be out of work, and then Charlie Sheen tells him, "How much is enough, Gordon?" And he said, "It's not how much is enough, pal. It's a zero-sum game. Somebody wins, somebody loses." Yep. And as you mentioned on this show, when you talk about your class warfare book, the system is rigged for the few to have the big sum, and the masses of the people, they're the ones who suffer and keep paying these taxes, and their life doesn't get better. And as Arnie Arneson was talking about in the last hour, and it really frightens me when she talks like this, but she's telling the truth. If you get a Donald Trump presidency and you get a Republican-controlled Senate and a Republican-controlled House, you're going to have the Project 25, which they're doing with these Republican governors that are in control in these red states, and it's Donald Trump getting revenge, as Howard Reynolds has mentioned many times, against all his enemies, and it's just his policies are going to hurt the masses of people because they're voting against their interests. I think it was Stephen Prepare said there at the end, a lot of people don't even understand what mandatory spending is. Well, that means Medicare. That means Medicare, and it also means it also means Social Security will go away.
All right, so thank you very much. Got you, Harry. You've been going for 2.5 minutes. You did a great job as usual.
I know.
So let me go ahead.
A lot of intelligent stuff, but people don't get out and vote.
You know what?
Make sure these people don't get in there.
Okay, Harry, let me tell you what you did to me. The 18-minute video I can't play now because the time doesn't add up. That's my fault. That's my fault. But anyhow, thank you for calling. Thank you for calling in, folks. Got to go. All right, folks. 713-526-5738. I can't play the 18-minute video because, again, I kind of screwed up on the time here. So we have to finish with me. Let me go ahead and talk about the video somewhat. But right now in the chat, we have Paul Fleming, who says, from Axios, 500,000 undocumented immigrants married to U.S. citizens may get an easier path to citizenship with a new program announced by President Biden on Tuesday. Interesting. And interesting that is coming out now. It's bold to do that right now. But again, there's quite a few bold acts that need to be done. Anyway, folks, look, um, over the weekend on the Sunday shows, Tim Scott was interviewed by Jonathan Karl on This Week, and I played a whole bunch. I had the interview. I cut up the interview, and I interjected commentary in each of the portions of what Jonathan Karl allowed to go past, and how Jonathan Karl didn't stop uh, Tim Scott, Senator Tim Scott, from lying to the American people. And when that happens, what happens is we get a completely distorted view of reality. And that has been happening for a very long time right now in our country. We have been getting a distorted view of our system. We've been getting a distorted view of our economy. We've been getting a distorted view of all these issues. And the fault of this is mostly the media. The media has what I call, for all practical purpose, committed uh, media malpractice. And the malpractice can be seen in what many people think, and much of what they think, where it came from. And when you listen to that Tim Scott interview, Tim Scott lied so much. And this isn't just misinformed or partial information. And by the way, folks, don't forget you can call in right now and say your piece at 713-526-5738. Again, that number is 713-526-5738, extension 2, if you have something that you want to say on air right now. But the distorted view that they get from the media, because look, granted, most people are out working during the days, and they don't have time to do the deep dive that we do as hosts. I mean, after all, that's what we do. Deep look at data and make sure that the data that we're getting for is verifiable and quantifiable. Most people don't have the time to do that. So they have to develop trust with some organization, whether it be Fox News or MSNBC or even Politics Done Right. Do you believe me or not? One of the things that I say here is don't take anything that I tell you at face value. Go ahead and corroborate what I'm saying. And after you've corroborated things that I've said a few times, then let me earn your trust. As the host of Politics Done Right, make sure that I earn your trust. I don't want you to believe in anything just for the heck of it. Let me earn it. And in the process, open the mind then for saying, oh my God, you mean we have been misled for this long? And that is exactly what has happened in this country. We have been misled not for how long? We have been misled since the inception of this country. I mean, we've had good people forever, but it's amazing how good people turn bad. All the people during the Hitler days weren't bad, but they succumb to the pressure. So that's where I want to that's where I want to go. That's where I want people to start thinking. This election is going to be important because, as opposed to just a, let's say, a bad guy winning or something like that, we are talking about being able to have systemic change of the fabric of the country in one of two ways: a good way or a bad way. But we know a change has to come. A change is coming because where we're at right now is unsustainable. Let me get back to the phones, which are now officially full. Let's go to Donald, line 2. Come on in, Donald.
Hey, good morning, Alberto. How are you
Good,
today?
good morning, my brother. Talk to me.
Okay, my tone, my attitude, I'm just north side white trash. But I'm going to say something to Johnny right now. Johnny, you know what? If my kids were younger, I would dump them on you, give you $200 because I trust you. And I trust what you say. And I would let you take them to wherever you wanted and have that relationship. So you just be Uncle Johnny. And you know what? We may disagree to agree, but I want my kids to see a different point of view, and that's what you could teach them. Because my kids, you know, they don't go to the fancy church camp because there's an opportunity to when they were kids. I wouldn't send them. I'd be like, oh, hell no. They're going on a mission. So they would go on a mission trip instead of going to this luxury resort water park crap. But, Johnny, let me tell you one thing. You know, Jesus ain't had no kids, and I trust him too. So, yes, you are right, and your viewpoint yesterday on what you said was 100% correct, and I apologize.
Wow. That you are a powerful dude, man. Look, I always said that Donald was a good guy. So you see, Donald, I guess I was right again, huh?
I don't
Donald.
know. You're never right, Berto. You just speak the truth. All right, I'll holler at you guys later.
All right,
Take
thank
it
you,
easy.
brother. You be cool. And with that, guess who's on the other end of the line? Brother Johnny on line number 3. Come on in, Johnny.
There is hope for us then when Brother Ronald McDonald says what he says. And I would be honored to sponsor his kids for trips and stuff. Why? Because I'm a big kid, and it takes a big kid to know little kids. So I appreciate your apology, and I accept it. And I hope that we can make maybe Brother Ronald McDonald and I can gather forces and get Brian to come around instead of being so contentious. So let's hope for that. So going back to what you said just a moment ago, you talked about repression. We suffer from legislative malpractice as well. Legislative malpractice, thanks to Marble Mouth Mitch McConnell and Chuck Grassley, what they did, violating their oath of office, when they mismanaged on purpose their committees that oversaw the people who were nominated for office in the Supreme Court and other judgeships. They do stuff like that. They run circles around Democrats. They're the bad boys, and the Democrats are the teacher's pet, and they follow the rules all the damn time, and nothing gets done, and democracy is subverted. We've got to be smart enough to know, like my Uncle Larry once told me, you got to know when to go with the flow. Too much is no good, but plenty's enough. So what that means is we've got to be smart enough to know how to practice moderation with moderation. What a thought! Who would have thunk it that a merchant marine cook could come up with a Zen comment like that to an 8-year-old? But it's true. So, and not only do we suffer from legislative malpractice, we suffer from economic malpractice. The way our system of capital is subverted by the Republican Party. We suffer from unfettered, underregulated, mercenary-style capitalism. And
Johnny, just to interrupt you a while, because I remember I want to be fair. Republicans could not have done the damage that this economic system has done on millions and millions of Americans by themselves. They had great support from neoliberal Democrats. Let's make sure and be honest about that. Continue, my brother.
Okay, there you go again, cutting me. And before I get to make my point, that's.
Oh, I'm sorry. I am sorry, Brian. I just didn't want to forget. I'm getting old. Hey, I'm getting old. Okay.
Brother Cornack from now on. You're reading my mind too quickly.
Oh.
Too bad we can't employ that mind meld like a Spock technology for the Democrats, so we can get them to say, "Hey, it's time for us to retire, go out the pasture." Pelosi, Schumer, Biden, the Clintons, Barack Obama, all of them. If we could figure out a way, maybe Brother Ronald and our other friend could figure out some kind of technology where we could infuse these centrist Democrats with the idea that it's time for them to go and to apologize to the American people on TV and invite the AOC to get in line to take over the party and bring it left where it needs to go, then guess what? Everything else will fall in place. And Brother Ronald McDonald won't have to worry about his kids being subverted by our suppressive system of economics, and advertising. Advertising also sucks in this country, and that's all I have to say.
All right, before you go, John, let me just say one other thing. It is important that people realize where we're coming from. It is from a position, believe it or not, and I'm gonna sound corny again, but it's from a position of loving your brothers and sisters, right? Those of us that call ourselves progressives, right? It's about wanting to have not false equity, not people getting something for nothing, but actually saying give everybody equal access to success. And you decide if you want to run with the baton or not. It's not about, and that's one of the reasons I also tell progressives very importantly to those who oppose us, or to those who, or I usually say to those who think they oppose us because of how we've been made a caricature. Remember, the system is designed to create an opposition, even if it's against your own interests. And what we have to do is not be like the system, but fight through it. And the way you fight through it is not hold things against others. So that's why I said open door for everybody. Thank you, Johnny. Anything else you want to say real quickly? 10 seconds. Oh, well, you're gone. Let's go to brother Brian. Come on in, Brian. How are you doing this morning, my brother?
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing fine, sir. Talk to me.
Okay. I'm going to go back to the student loan forgiveness program. Someone said that it's like a subsidy.
Like,
Is that what I heard yesterday?
what did you call it?
Subsidy?
Yeah, right. Go ahead.
Okay. The new supposedly Biden infrastructure bill,
Uh-huh.
Amtrak received $66 billion in subsidies, even though they have never made a profit since its inception in 1971. The same fiscal year, the oil companies, not just one company, all of the oil companies received $9.6 billion. And what do we get for those $9.6 billion? We get a profit margin. We get a profitable commodity that everyone uses. The average ridership of Amtrak is 14 miles. How many billions of dollars have they received since inception? Quite a few billions of dollars. They don't own their own track, they lease it. Don't tell me, wait, stop. You give Johnny plenty enough time, and you don't tax yourself to prosperity. You develop, create, market, and sell a product for a profit. That is prosperity. Now tell me that I'm wrong. Tell me that I've been brainwashed for making a profit.
Okay, your description is wrong, and let me explain. Okay,
There it is.
and by the way, I wasn't trying to. I want to let you know I wasn't trying to interrupt you. I wanted a clarification on what you said. But here's the deal. You clarified it as you continued. First of all, and this is where you're wrong, and this is where you're wrong not because intrinsically, but because of what was taught to you. You are of the belief that profit determines the value of something. Okay? Like Amtrak, you just tried to compare Amtrak with the oil company. And because Amtrak doesn't make a profit, because Amtrak got so many $billion in subsidies, and somehow that private company named Exxon or whatever the oil company is, they are better. Remember what capitalism is defined as: the efficient allocation of resources. And if you followed 2 shows ago, I mentioned that system, that system where everything must be a profit, is something that harms humanity. We don't get certain projects built because certain projects cannot be profitable because of what they do. Amtrak is one of those things. Amtrak's intrinsic value, or its value to society, is much larger than what than it would. Let me explain this way. It's more valuable to give people complete mobility. the ability to move around. And you can't apply a profit to that ability to have the country where folks can move around. And to think that only profitability means that it's a successful enterprise, that would be wrong. Being able to get somebody from Timbuktu, it's like the U.S. mail system. It's very unprofitable to send a 55 cents piece of mail to Timbuktu, Alaska, but it costs the same amount to send a piece of mail to Alaska than it does to right around the corner from your house. There's a reason we subsidize certain things. We want Americans living in Alaska. We want Americans living in Timbuktu, New York, where Amtrak serves. And it's not going to be profitable, because if we depended on profitability, it would make no sense for it to exist. But it has that human value that is not based on profit. Brian, I'm saying we are distorted in the view that everything must be done for profit. We do it in healthcare, which is immoral, and we do it in many other places. I'll let you answer this tomorrow, because I got 3 more calls I got to get to, and it's at 50 right now.
Farmers got $14 billion. Farmers got $14 billion.
They deserve more. They deserve much more than the oil companies combined.
It's feeding the service. It's feeding its service a profit. Okay?
Brian, I got it. Brian, honest, I got to go, but we'll talk about this tomorrow again. Let's go to David. Come on in, David.
Yeah, hi. I appreciate your that guy. He never used the word invest. He's like a skinflint. And the way I look at taxes is America puts together a big pool of money on April 15th, and then they decide how to buy themselves something nice. Whether it's a good, clean, fresh water system, whether it's good highways, whether it's, whatever, with libraries, universities, sidewalks, parks, everything. We buy ourselves something nice, and we expect it to be managed wisely by the mayor and the city council and the state legislature, buying ourselves something nice. Now, that last guy, he's like a skinflint that not only doesn't want to buy something nice for himself, but he doesn't want anybody else to do it. And these so-called libertarians, or their so-called, I don't even think they're capitalists. I think they're skinflints, and because they don't invest. They just want to deny and, and then, of course, give their crony buddies the contracts when it all falls apart. So I'm sick and tired of listening to those rats. They never have wanted to do anything good for America, and they're like these nasty little sniping.
David, let me just say, because I try to, I feel your pain and I feel your angst and anger, right? But what I try to do is, if I can communicate with I try to take the position of communication. A lot of when I hear Brian, okay, I hear the Powell memo. Okay, this was done. The Powell memo then came about out of nothing, right? It came out of psychological brain. Go ahead.
Which one was Powell memo again? I do know some Supreme Court.
The Powell memo
right?
is that document that said Americans were. I'm paraphrasing. Americans are getting smart. We have to dumbify Americans again by infiltrating the schools, the media, the churches, and everything else, so that we can throw our point of view that tells them they do all the work and we get all the spoils, and that profit is the only.
Right.
I mean that read the document. I am paraphrasing, but that is the ultimate results of the document. And the thing about it is, there's a lot of psychology that went into preaching to people, repetition, and all these things that have set their mind. And it takes a while for all of us to deprogram. I had to be deprogrammed myself. So one of the things that I said is, if I had to be deprogrammed, look, this stuff was powerful. So, David, I got to go to Bard, but anything else real quick, 5 seconds.
Oh, take care. Oh,
Thank
well,
you,
I just said, make a local economy so you can, local alliances make us strong. Yeah, it's like our birthright is we own this country, not the rich.
Thank you, brother. I got to go to Bard. You're right about that. Bard, come on in. You got about 30 seconds, brother. Sorry.
Well, I just want to tell Donald to be careful when he sends his kids to Northern Johnny's socialist camp, because they're going to come back dirty, hungry, and with no money.
Oh my God,
And
Bard. Have you ever been to Finland? Have you ever been to have you ever been to Sweden? Have you ever been to Denmark? These are countries that are very much happier than Americans are. Remember that. But I gotta go. Thank you, Bard. You know, you
hey,
always
one
have
more
some. Yeah, real quick.
point, Brian. You're just to simplify it. We pay back the student loans, and the kids vote for Biden. That's the whole point. Nothing
Okay,
else.
even
Nothing
okay, that we'll talk about that another.
vote.
Well, let's talk about student loan and a full program. Thank you very much, Bard. Johnny, you got about 30 seconds.
Okay, I was going to answer your question, but I'll just address what you said to Brian. You know, what they did to the post office, or what they did to Amtrak back in the day, undermining it financially and sabotaging it, they're doing the same thing to the post office right now. That's what's going on here. The government is not the problem. It's the people who get into government with the intent of sabotaging government. That's his party, his people, his tribe, not me and Egberto. Bye-bye.
Brother, thank you so kindly, my brother. Thank you so kindly. All right, let's go to Brother Jack for a quick commentary before I close this baby down.
Man, it came kind of quick. Sometimes it's hard to keep up with, Egberto.
I know, but you know what, Johnny? I mean, hear me, Johnny. You know what, Jack? That's why we're here. That's why we got 5 days every week to do the job, to go ahead and talk and entertain and reach our people. And when I say our people, all people are our people. So thank you for being there, Jack. Thank you for holding down that fort for the entire hour by yourself. Anyway, folks, this is Politics Done Right. Please, we did cover that 28-minute video and a couple more things. Go to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter, politicsdoneright.com/newsletter to finish up what we were going to do on the show. I want to thank all our listeners. I want to thank all our callers. All of our callers. Love you all. Love you, Jack. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this baby. I am what?